Good morning and welcome to the Oilers TV live pregame show. I'm your host, Tony Barr. Thanks so much for making us a part of your morning. The Edmonton Oilers look to close out this 7-game homestand, the longest homestand of the season for them, on a high note. They've won the last 3 games. Of course, a lot was said about the 3 games that they dropped to the Toronto Maple Leafs when they came into town last week. Well, they've responded in a big way against Calgary and then the Ottawa Senators twice, making it to look at thrice with the 7th meeting between the two clubs going tonight at Rogers Place. 6-0 is their season record against Ottawa. They've outscored them 28-13 so far in this season set, and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl have been certainly leading the way for the Edmonton Oilers. Draisaitl with 6 goals and 9 assists in 6 meetings so far for 15 points. Connor McDavid not far behind, 2 goals and 11 assists. Tyson Barrie also has 9 points in the 6 games against the Ottawa Senators this season. Meanwhile, Darnell Nurse also is averaging a point per game against the Senators. Now, a quick lineup note as we quickly look at the board for tonight. No lineup changes, actually, is the news coming out of morning skate this morning. Of course, the line of Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, and Kyler Yamamoto staying intact. Nugent Hopkins, Tyler Ennis, and Jesse Puljujarvi rounding out the top 6. And you'll see that William Legason stays in the lineup as he is with Adam Larsson, and Caleb Jones and Ethan Bear round out the pairings on the back end. Mike Smith is also slated to make his second consecutive start. He is 8-2 on the season so far. And one thing that you'll notice on that Edmonton leaders on the left-hand side of the board there, Tyson Barrie overtook Ryan Nugent-Hopkins as the 3rd leading scorer on this club. Nugent-Hopkins was there all season long, but Tyson Barrie with 3 assists just 2 nights ago bumps up to 22 points on the season. At the time being, put him 4th amongst NHL defensemen in scoring. So it sounds like we're going to be hearing from William Legason and Alex Chason this morning, followed by head coach Dave Tippett. We'll jump to the Oilers Hall of Fame room at Rogers Place as soon as they're available and at the podium, so stay tuned.
Joined by William Lagesson. If you have questions, please use the raise hand function. If you have a follow-up, ask it following your first. Reed Wilkins, 630 Chad.
Thanks, Sean. Hi, William.
Hi.
William, what any past experience with being out of the lineup with an injury that you drew on to get through this stint being on injured reserve?
I've been pretty healthy the past few years, and so I've been lucky with that. And right now, as quick as possible, and it's good to be back.
You know, you and Adam Larsson seem to have clicked pretty well together in terms of being able to, you know, to hit and block shots and do all those gritty things. Why do you think you guys have worked well as a pairing?
I mean, we were both Swedes, maybe that's why. I don't know, he's a righty, I'm a lefty. We play kind of towards a similar game. I think we had a good start of the season when we get paired together, and we've just been trying to build on that and try to build some good chemistry together. So it's good to come back yesterday and play with him again, and I think we had a good game yesterday too.
Jim Matheson, Post Media.
William, when two Swedes play together, do you talk on the ice in English or in Swedish?
We both have been playing over here for quite a bit, so it's more natural to speak English on the ice, to use those terms and stuff like that. But we mix a little bit sometimes when we're on the bench and explain a couple of things that happen out there. We can speak Swedish too, but usually the terms out there on the ice we usually use English.
So, young Swedish hockey players, I'm sure, all looked at Nicholas Lidstrom and Erik Karlsson and stuff, but you and Adam play a more of a defensive shutdown kind of style. Was there a defenseman that played your sort of style that you liked, a Swedish defenseman, when you were growing up?
Excuse me, I couldn't hear you the last few words there.
Was there a Swedish defenseman in the NHL that you really liked when you were growing up, who played the same sort of style you do? Not Erik Karlsson, somebody like that, an offensive.
Yeah, obviously, like you said, Nick Lidstrom. I'm a guy I've been watching and to try to learn things from. Him, Crownwall. Yeah, those guys play hard, solid, been in the NHL for a long time, and been having great careers. So,
Rob Tuchkowski, Post Media.
Playing with Adam, he's a guy that plays a heavy, solid, good defensive game. What do you pick up from him? What do you learn from watching and playing with Adam Larsson?
I think what he's doing really good is to play 100% in all situations. He doesn't go into a situation like 50-60%. Like it's hard. He's hard on guys, close on guys, good stick, has a good gap. All those kind of things, like passing the puck, shooting the puck. Like you gotta do those things like 100% and really hard. And that's what I've been picking up most, and try to do that the same thing.
Your road to the NHL has been a little longer than most. I think you were drafted like 6 years or so ago. You grinded and fought pretty hard to get to this point. What has been the key to you making it this far?
I think what I try to stand for is that I'm a hardworking guy. That's what has been taking me here. Just try to every day, like, do my best, try to live the life, do 100% in everything I'm doing, try to get better every day. So I would say just work ethic and hard work, and it's good that it pays off too.
Tony Brar, Oilers TV.
Well, you're just building off Rob's question there. You talked about the things that kind of led you here, but what are some things that you look forward to in terms of developing in your game that you want to continue to hone as your NHL career goes on?
I think there's always things that you can get better at. Right now, trying to move the puck quicker, finding plays all around the ice. It's always nice to improve your offensive game too, because I think one of my biggest strengths my whole career has been my defensive part of the game. So that's what I'm trying to focus on right now.
You mentioned being injured earlier. Of course, no player wants to be sitting in the press box and watching games, but you had the opportunity to watch this team when you guys first started this homestand, and you dropped 3 to Toronto, and now you've won the last 3. What has been the biggest difference for you and your club in perhaps getting back to your game and getting back to your winning ways, and how big is it to end off your homestand with a win tonight?
It's always going to be ups and downs during the year. Like you said, we had a lot of down there in Toronto series, but it's good that we bounced back good these past 2 games here, and we just got to play the same way as we've been doing now the past games here, and I think we're gonna. If we play that way, we're gonna close down this series with 3 wins.
If there are no more questions, this concludes William Lagesson's media availability. Please stay tuned for Alex Jason and Dave Tippett. If you have a follow-up, ask it following your first. Start with Jim Matheson, Post Media.
Alex, when you've beaten a team 7-1 last game, how difficult is it to play the next game against them and not think, okay, the last game was easy and you beat them 6 times in a row? Mentally, do you have to say to yourself, okay, we'll just treat this like we're playing the Toronto Maple Leafs and not a team we beat 6 in a row?
You know what? I think those are tonight are 2 points that are key for us. No, they're a good team. Expect them to come out with a lot of energy tonight, tenacity, and tonight would be the toughest match so far. So we got to get ready here and expect a team that's hungry for a win.
And when you're playing on the power play and McDavid and Draisaitl are handling the puck all the time, your role is, I guess, to stand in front of the net, but are you always expecting them to just keep passing and eventually they're going to shoot the puck? It seems to go back to the point, but you're standing in front of the net. It's a lot of work for you, kind of muscle and stuff like that, to stand in front of the net.
Yeah, I think it's just a lot of reads, tendency, plays that they've made over the past 2-3 years. There's a lot of stuff that we talk about off ice or in the video room, things that we go over. So, you know, I know my role.
Rob Chichkowski, Post Media.
Yeah, Alex, the Canadian division, when it first started out, everybody was really jacked up and excited about it. I'm wondering, as players at the halfway mark, are you guys still enjoying this format of, 2 and 3 game series and the same 6 teams? Is the novelty worn off a little bit? How do you guys view things?
I think it's been great. You know, it's something so different than what we're used to. Obviously, I think having fans in the buildings, if this was you know, a little bit more normalcy, I think this would be even more special. But I like it. It's been different. It's been nice to play all Canadian teams. I like the format. I think it's been a success so far, considering, you know, all that we're going through in society.
Do you, when you're playing the same 6 teams over and over again, is it more difficult to get a sense of who you really are as a team when the sample size is so small, or is that something you don't have to worry about just yet?
I haven't thought of that. I don't think we've talked about that as a team either.
Tony Brower, Oilers TV.
Another question on the Canadian division there, Alex. How intently do you watch other games in the Canadian division, or the standings, or whatever the case may be? How much more of an emphasis do you put on your off days, on game days even?
And to be honest, this year's probably the least hockey I've watched. I mean, we watch, you know, I'll watch a period here and there, but, you know, we're playing every other day. We're traveling. There's a lot going on. The standings are so tight in our division. You know, teams go to overtime, they gain a point, another team gets an extra point. Yeah, it's a different year. I think I've kind of adapted to how the schedule has been, and making sure, you know, my body and my mind feels good.
Alex, Wednesday marked the halfway point of the season for you guys. How would you assess the first half went, and how do you plan on using the successes and the learnings from the first half heading into half number 2?
Yeah, we probably didn't get off to the start we were hoping for. And we had a really good stretch in February. We grew a lot as a team, I think, in that stretch. I won't lie, it was a tougher matchup against Toronto. It's probably not the results we were hoping for, but you know, it shows what the team that we've been able to bounce back here, and you know, we've put 3 games together here, so this is again on another good stretch here. Our schedule here coming up, we got long road trips and lots of travel or whatnot, so good test for us.
If there are no more questions, this concludes Alex Chiasson's media availability. Please stay tuned for Dave Tippett. Joined by head coach Dave Tippett. Again, if you have questions, please use the raise hand function. If you have a follow-up, ask it following your first. Start with Jim Matheson, Post Media.
Dave, no Chris Russell on the ice this morning. Did he take a shot or something last game?
Yeah, day-to-day lower body injury for Chris.
And it appears that Caleb Jones will be back in.
Yeah.
They play a different sort of style. What do you want from Caleb tonight?
Jonesy's been all right since he's came back. He's you know, he's an agile defenseman. Got to make sure that he's moving the puck well, but he's really dug into some of the defending part of it, taking time and space away. So he's been solid since he came back.
Reed Wilkins, 6:30 Chad.
Dave, I wonder if you can comment on sort of on the journey for someone like William Lagesson, who seems like he's early in his career because we haven't seen him in the NHL a lot, but he's already in his mid-20s, and sort of maybe the value of the experience he's put in to get to this point.
I think it really just highlights defense is a hard position to play, and that experience is a big factor, especially when, like, Leggy is a real solid defender. You know, there's not a lot of, you know, it's not like there's been a big offensive burst and you're waiting for that to happen. He's just a solid player. So he has to come along the way and earn his stripes. And when you're a defender first, it's the experience of reading a lot of those plays, defending the right way. It takes some time. And, you know, we had a situation, you know, that we came into that you had Bear and Jones and Lagesson were all real good players in the AHL when they came, when Ken and I got here last year, and they were all guys that were real good prospects, and now the three of them have worked their way in our lineup and are good players in our lineup. So Leggy's come in, he's got a real solid defending base, doesn't make a lot of mistakes, good penalty killer, and you know, he's fit in well in our lineup.
So what's the balance of how a defense core is ideally composed? I mean, obviously McCarr and Hughes and Heiskanen and young players have come in like that and been able to skate and move the puck, but I mean, how many guys do you need on your team who are still just do the,
well, you need
the grunt work?
You need everybody to do all of them, ideally, but there is some, you know, there's some situational stuff that you've got to have people that can defend well. You got to have power play guys. You got to have penalty killer guys. Puck moving is a big part of it, and it really goes into the, you know, the kind of how the whole team is made up. I've seen D-cores that have had, you know, 4 good puck movers, but that being said, you can still be a good puck mover and still be a good penalty killer, or you can be still a puck mover and be a good defender. You know, Darnell Nurse is showing that this year. He moves the puck well. He's getting some points, but he's a top defender for us. So, you know, there's some people that have both the elements you need. There's some that are more weighted on the defensive part. There's some that are more weighted on the offensive part. So it's how your group is, the makeup of your group, and you got to try to maximize.
Paul Stravisky, NHL.com.
Hello, Dave. Today marks a year since the NHL hit pause on last season. So even though you haven't really played in front of fans for the whole year, and as you reflect on what you've gone through, do you sort of feel like you see the light at the end of the tunnel in the situation we're in right now?
Well, you really hope you do, because you see, you know, I think it's, 15 or 16 teams in the States have some fans there now. The game really misses the fans. The fans bring emotion to the game. They may bring emotion to the players. It creates an atmosphere where it's fun. And playing hockey is fun, but playing in front of fans is a lot more fun. And especially in this Canadian division, it would be absolutely crazy if we had full houses right now. You know, now I don't know how that's going to work in the future, but the game misses the fans. They miss their energy, and you know, I give the players credit because they've dug in. They put a lot of work in. They're dug into the games, and they're emotionally invested. But the fans, they add that extra element that just makes the game a lot better.
And as far as just returning to normalcy, what are some of the positive signs you're seeing now, you know, to give you optimism for the future?
Well, I think you have to look at the optimism of the vaccine rollouts. I mean, the quicker they can get that done, the quicker I think you can get back to normal. So I know every country in the world has its challenges of getting everybody vaccinated, but that's to me that's the thing that's going to finally push it over the top to get people thinking that they're moving back in the right direction to normal.
Terry Jones, Post Media. Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
I say, can you discuss the challenges involved in this compact schedule within a compact schedule. I think you're beginning a stretch of 3 games in 4 days and 12 and 21 or something like that. What are the challenges within the challenges? How important is it to get a game like you had 2 of the last 4 where you've got it in control early and you can maybe use everybody and cut down the ice time on some guys, all of that stuff, and your goaltending?
Well, the challenge is to make sure your team tries to stay as fresh as possible with as many games. And that being said, you got to, you're teaching and coaching and trying to make sure things are in place. That's usually done with limited practice time. So it's managing your schedule as much as anything, and not just schedule the game, schedule of how much you practice, how much rest you need. Also with the taxi squad here, you have extra players around, so how can you manage your players accordingly to make sure that you've got fresh people ready to go in if needed? You can cover up on injuries, because when you're playing lots of games, you're going to get lots of bumps and bruises. So there's a whole game behind the game that goes into making sure your team is prepared and physically as ready as possible to compete at the highest level you can. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge. A normal schedule is a challenge. This is added an extra element to that.
Can you just add to that about getting? I know you want to do one game is a single game and all that, but the number of times you can get a jump on somebody like you did the other night and relax the minutes.
Well, you never want to relax. I mean, you got to have good habits all the way through, but there's some games that become more intense than others, and we're going to have our fair share of intense games. So I would, if I'm going to think one way, I'm going to bet on more intense games and more games like that than the other night. I think tonight will be a very intense game. So we're not. You worry about when you can kind of get some rest in a game, not rest in a game, but not overuse people in a game. But for the most part, you go into every game thinking it's going to be an intense game and you're going to try to win.
Ryan Rashog, TSN.
Dave, just wondering what the messaging was today, just along the lines of avoiding any sort of letdown tonight from your group after such a dominant performance.
You just hit the nail right on the head. Can't have a letdown. There's no room for error here. We're in the second half of the season. We have 28 games left, and every game is of ultra importance. Every point is ultra importance. There can't be any letdown.
I wanted to ask you about Ryan Nugent-Hopkins playing center, how you think he's been back there. He hasn't played a lot there this year. And just along the lines of pushing some offense at even strength, what you'd like to see from him in his game.
Yeah, the line's been all right the last 2 games. They created some chances they didn't capitalize on, and I think Puliarvi had a post. Ennis was in there alone once. Nuge has a couple chances, so it's you'd like to see it go in the net, but they've been all right here. We'll give them another go tonight and see where it goes.
Tony Brower, Oilers TV.
Dave, you mentioned that tonight marks the second half of your guys' season. What are some of the lessons and learnings from the first half that you guys look to implement moving forward?
I think your team is always, learning and figuring out how to win, with the group we have. We started a little bit slow. We got going a little bit. I think we learned some lessons in that Toronto series, and now we bounced back a little bit. So our guys are, the lessons that we talk about every day is not get too high, not get too low. Let's make sure we're doing things right and give ourselves the best chance to be successful every night. And to do that, you need everybody playing at the best level they can, and we have to get our group that's a real coordinated group and play well together and give ourselves the best chance to win. So we've made some strides, but we're looking at the second half. We want to continue to improve.
You guys had your longest homestand of the season tonight. You've been around the game for a long time, Dave. Is there really a difference when you closed out a homestand on a high note before you guys embark on a road trip?
Yeah, I don't know if that's talked about much. We talked about our home record wasn't near as good as our road record, and we hadn't played as well at home. So that was the key for us, and that's what we talked about again tonight. We have to continue to improve our record at home. we'll worry about the road game tomorrow.
Jim Matheson, Post Media.
Couple of things, Dave. Was there any consideration into playing 7D tonight to get Evan Bouchard in a game?
No, I like the way our lines went the other night.
And Dominic Cahoon, he seems to have fallen out of favor.
No, he's not out of favor. He's out of the lineup, but not out of favor. He's fine. Don't make a story out of something that's not. He's played all right. It's a numbers game for him right now, the mix we're looking at, and he'll get back in soon.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. This concludes Dave Tippett's media availability.
And there was Oilers head coach Dave Tippett talking to the media this morning. Of course, the Oilers taking on the Ottawa Senators with a 7 p.m. puck drop tonight. I do want to correct myself from the top of the show. I accidentally said the lineup stayed the same from last game. What I meant was the lineup stayed the same from yesterday's practice. Of course, the difference being Chris Russell not in the lineup after being what's called a day-to-day with a lower body injury, according to head coach Dave Tippett. We saw that yesterday in Thursday's availability, or sorry, this morning, I guess I should say. So I apologize for that. It is Russell out for Caleb Jones, and that is the only difference in the lineup tonight. Now, we do have a little bit of bonus coverage for you this morning. I spoke with Glenn Anderson about a very special night, and that is tonight. It's Hockey Fights Cancer Night, and tonight's Edmonton Oilers Community Foundation Remax 50-50. Half of the proceeds will go towards the Cancer Foundation. And Glenn Anderson, of course, you know the story, the number 9 up in the rafters. 1,099 points in the National Hockey League, over 1,100 games, 6-time Stanley Cup winner. He's actually been heavily involved with the Alberta Cancer Society and even hosting his own Glenn Anderson Day of Golf charity golf tournament that he hosts every summer, as he's been actively involved with him. I had a chance to sit down and speak with him about the importance of a day like today and what the contributions and the proceeds from a night like tonight can mean for that sort of initiative as a whole. So here is my sit down with Glenn Anderson.
It's kind of towards Cure Cancer Foundation and Alberta Cancer Foundation, and towards the Cross Cancer Institute. The Hockey Fights Cancer and the NHL has been working with for years about that. And I'm sure the 50-50 for the Edmonton Oilers is like massive amounts of charities that they deal with and they cope with kind of every day, and they're in the community. I remember playing with the Oilers that we were constantly in the community. We were part of the community family, and that's kind of what stabilized us and kept our boots on the ground. And it was very special for me because of the fact that we started that Glenn Anderson Day of Golf back in the early mid 80s. And it's still continuing today. So it's been very successful. It's a great success story at the end of the day.
Glenn, how did you first end up getting involved with the cancer-specific fundraising efforts and events?
Well, we put a group together, Doug Cumming, Cal Nichols, who the Oilers, I'm sure, well known of, one of the owners and co-chair of the Oilers when they got sold by Pocklington, kept the Oilers in Edmonton, and John Truman. So we got together and we were deciding on what charity I wanted to be affiliated with in Edmonton. And we went to 2, 3, maybe even 4 different charities before we really caught on to the Cross Cancer Institute. And at the initial outcome, and I think it was 84, 85, I started going to the Cross. And it's well over 30 years, coming up on 35 years at least. And I remember visiting with the patients, and back in the day, it was completely revamped now, but the way it looked back then, we went back to 1980, 1981. Dr. Thomas was a friend of mine, and he ended up injecting rats with tumors. And I remember going into the little room with these lead jackets on, and the laser surgery that they were doing on the rats to bring down the cancer tumors were absolutely incredible. So that was back in 1980. And that was my first taste of where we could come with this disease and how we could help humans down the road. And it's amazing how far we've come in that span. The technology today is incredible. We're saving so many more lives now. It's unreal.
You previously mentioned your annual golf tournament. So a little bit of a two-part question here. One, how do you usually shoot? Two, how much has your annual golf tournament raised for the Cross Cancer Institute in the 30 plus years it's been running?
Shoot, you mean my golf game? It's non-existent. What's your handicap? My handicap's my game, basically, at the end of the day. And as far as how much have we raised, we're in the upward part of 16, 17 million over the time frame. So, and we go off of the slogan and the saying of what we do today will save lives tomorrow. And the 30 plus, 40 plus years that I've been associated with the Cross Cancer Institute, we've expanded lives and saved so many lives, and that's kind of a key part that is close to me, and I'm proud of as a legacy that's left behind besides a hockey career.
So what you're saying is the proceeds far exceed whatever you bring to the tee box. So I like the humbleness, that's for sure. Speaking of those proceeds, where do they go? And have you been able to meet people directly impacted by your efforts?
100%. Well, as you know, we have several ex-co-workers that have been affected by melanoma. Barry Stafford, Dave Sammy Semenko. We had there's two other guys there too, Stevie Moss and Brian. They both were affected by the cancer, and we've it's really close to the Oilers' home and heart, and we're still fighting, but Barry Stafford's been a big part of this. He's initiated the Toast of the Town, which is a kind of a runoff of what we started 2 years ago now, that we started the Toast of the Town. And this year we're doing a kickoff with Kevin Lowe. It was supposed to be last year, and now it's going to be this year. So I think the Cross Cancer Institute has always been close to the Oilers' heart and soul, and it's a lot of the family has been affected by it.
Yeah, the Edmonton Oilers Community Foundation has been making a tremendous effort and raising a lot of funds throughout this season with the online 50-50. What does it say about the generosity of hockey fans across oil country to see such tremendous support for all these causes, Glenn?
Well, the numbers, for one thing, kind of blow me away. And it was amazing. I remember I was in just outside of Bow. I think it was in Panorama that I was watching the playoffs, and the 50-50 came on, and I went, is that number right? That can't be. And I'm going, where? And it's across Alberta. You can only buy your tickets in Alberta. This is what I heard at that time. And I was going, oh my God, are you kidding me? This is unbelievable. And the at the end of the day, the charity at that particular game or event that they're doing benefits so much from the funds raised. And hats off to the people that are involved and get part of this 50-50, and that their generosity in Alberta and Albertans in general has been huge and greatly appreciated at no means. I mean, as far as I know how much work goes in behind an event, And with the Oilers putting this on, just kudos to you all to putting on every charity that's out there. And I know you get so many requests. It's just a great honor to be part of it.
Yeah, speaking about the numbers that you mentioned, I know Sportsnet's Jeff Merrick was kind of giving the jackpot total during the intermission, and it jumped up $11,000 in a span of 30 seconds. Just incredible stuff from the people in oil country. All right, Glenn, we can't talk to you without talking a little bit of hockey. So I got a question or two in talking about this season alone. What are your impressions of the Oilers so far and their efforts midway through this year?
Well, slow start. Just kind of like, to be expected. I'm sure it was like, anytime you get that kind of a layoff or time off, it takes a little while to get your engines going and get ramped up and get the cohesiveness back together again. And, it's great to watch the game today. You've got two of the best players in the world on the Oilers, so it's never a dull moment. And always you want to tune into the where you think is going to be the better games. And right now you want to watch the best players in the world. So, you've got Pittsburgh, Washington, you've got Colorado, and the Oilers are the key players are on those teams. So you want to be part of them and watching them on a regular basis. So, and watching those players. So there's a lot of fans out there that are, I'm sure, a little on their seats and on edge daily because of the highs and the lows of the game. But as an ex-player, you kind of always know, your room is tight. You're as good as the next guy that's beside you. And you've got to keep that link, no broken links, and the rope tight, and everybody tugging in the same direction. And I think that's very important. And the togetherness. You got to be, you got to be light. You got to be comical in the dressing room and have fun. I mean, it's a game, and enjoy it and do the best you can every night. And I love watching the Oilers. And it's just a pleasure to watch the best players in the world.
Glenn, one final question for you. As someone who's played for both the Oilers and the Leafs, how cool has it been able to watch this North Division? And what would it look like back in your playing days?
Well, I think the rivalry is always going to be there. You got to count Montreal in there too, because Montreal always had an aura about it walking into that building. And it's like the old Leaf Gardens, the old Forum, and the Oilers. It seems to be when they came into our building, there was more Leaf jerseys and more Montreal jerseys than there were Oiler jerseys. And it was always a pleasure. And you ramped your game up more. In my era. I don't know. I'm sure 97 Connor gets a little more amped up when he plays Toronto because he's from there. But I know when I play in Vancouver, my hometown, I always wanted to put on a show. So the Canadian division is absolutely fantastic. I think it's the best division of all of the divisions in the NHL right now, and the most fun to watch because it's going to be an unbelievable tight race right down to the wire, and there's going to be good hockey clubs that are not going to make the playoffs, which is going to be amazing.
Well, Glenn, you talked about the jerseys. Certainly when there were fans in the building, there were certainly a lot of number 9 jerseys as well as the one up in the rafters. Thanks so much for doing this, Glenn.
My pleasure. Thank you.